You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions. Your host tonight is the author of the Pro-Black Compendium and Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa, the Pan-African Nationalist, Oni. Oni, what are we discussing tonight?
Peace Seeker. Tonight, we're discussing the truth. The theme of today is how the term racism, alright? The term racism is hiding reality from black people. And before we get into this talk, I want you to understand something, right? Your ancestors wrote on the walls, etched in stone, always watch and follow nature, alright? And that's very important. Nature is where reality is. Alright? Nature is where truth is. When you want to look for truth, you look at nature. And you know this. You know this because I've given you the ancestral wisdom in the book. Right? But I want you to pay attention to this. Always watch and follow nature. Right? Now I want you to do something for me. I don't know where you are right now. Right? But let's say if you have access to your bedroom, right? Or if you're in your bedroom right now, get out, okay? If you have access to your bedroom, right? And you're out of your bedroom right now, right? I want you to walk into your bedroom and look left and look right and imagine that there's a tiger in your bedroom. All right? Imagine that there's a tiger in your bedroom. Now, if there's a tiger in your bedroom, what does that mean for you? Right? What does that mean for you? Right? Now, realistically speaking, what I can say for you is that you have a problem. Right? If the tiger is in your bedroom, you now have a problem. Does that make sense? Now, I'm saying you have a problem not because of what the tiger is doing. Alright? Tiger could be sleeping. The tiger could be reading a book. The tiger could be searching and sifting through your files. Right? Whatever the tiger is doing, it doesn't matter. The tiger, right, in your bedroom is a problem. Right? And it doesn't matter what it's doing. You understand? And that's something that you have to realize when it comes to, always watch and follow nature. The reality that a tiger in your bedroom is a problem. Right? And we're going to work with this. Right? Now, suppose in another case, right? You have a tiger's in your room. Right? And then a white man is in your room. And you're in the room. Right? But the white man is armed. Okay, he has a gun, right? And he's like, he's facing his gun toward the tiger, and he already let the tiger know he has a gun. He shot it in the air. He was expressive with it, and he's like, "Stay away from me, tiger! Stay away from me, tiger!" Right? Now, if you're in the room and all you're doing is tweeting and texting, right? Then the tiger. Then who do you think the tiger's gonna eat? You understand? Who do you think the tiger will eat? Now, the tiger is going to choose the black person, you, right? And what white man wants you to say is that, it is, well, you're going to call that tiger racist. But understand again what's going on. This white man is armed. He's threatening the tiger. He's defending himself. He armed himself. And the tiger is going after you because you're unarmed, distracted, texting, not understanding the threat that the tiger poses to you, right? And the white man teaches you to say, well, the tiger's racist. You get what I'm saying? Now we're going to go further with this tiger example. And we're doing this for a reason. Because we have to look at the terms that we're using, right? So imagine that a tiger cub walks in, right? So now there's four things in the room, right? There's you, there's this white man armed to the teeth, right? There's a tiger and a tiger cub. Okay? Now again, it doesn't matter if the tiger cub is stronger than you. It doesn't matter if the tiger cub is weaker than you, right? The tiger is still looking at you to eat. You understand? The tiger's not looking to do any harm to the tiger cub or the tigress or whatever, right? The reason the tiger's not looking to do any harm to those, right, is because they're tigers. You see? And what white people or what the dialogue is, when you see this in terms of let's say white people, right? You call this privilege. You see what I'm saying? White people would say, "Hey, isn't that tiger privilege that they treat the tiger cub well?" I mean, you see where I'm going with this, right? But it's not tiger privilege. You know? It's called organization. Right? It's called organization. You see? Because the tigers fit a role, if you will. Right? Where organizationally and members of an organization receive benefits. It's not privilege, it's called being organized, right? But again, you don't use the word organized, you use the word privilege. And in so doing, you're hiding the reality. Because again, like I said, we have to look at nature. Nature is reality, right? So we're gonna go back and we're gonna look at this failed and foolish vocabulary that we were given, right? Check, for instance, Michael Vick. Michael Vick, he was in trouble with the law, if you will, or their law, right? He was in trouble with their law over fighting dogs. Now, I don't know why he's fighting dogs, but he's fighting dogs, right? Or dog fighting, right? He goes to prison for that, right? Now, if a wealthy white man, right, bites the face off of a baby, right? Particularly, especially a black baby. But if he bites the face off of a baby, right, the judge would call him forward, right, tell him to put his hand out and slap him on the wrist, right? And see, when you see these cases of disparate differences between sentences between white and black, you call that privilege, okay? You call that privilege. But again, let's go back to this tiger, okay? The tiger will be more harsh on an alpaca in its midst than on a cub. No? Or the tiger would be more harsh to the zebra walking into its, into its family than another tiger. You understand? And yeah, some people might, say, well, tigers are kind of hostile to each other. Don't worry about that right now, right? Pay attention to the reality of what tigers would do to outsiders, okay? Because again, there's a proverb in the book that goes, if a crocodile eats its own egg, what do you think it will do to the flesh of a frog? You understand? So yeah, even a crocodile will do harm to its own, but what do you think it will do to outsiders? And this is something that you have to realize when you're dealing with another people. That yes, they do harm to themselves. But you're an outsider. You're not a part of their people. And that's something that we as African people don't seem to grasp. I can't tell you how many African people talk about America and say that they're Americans when it doesn't make any sense. We're not Americans. We're Africans. And white people know this. You understand? White people know this. And when we, when we're critical of, American presidents, doesn't make a lot of sense when they're not our presidents. But that's the whole other conversation, right? But that's a whole other conversation. But my point is, we call something privilege when really it's just organizations treat their members better than people outside the organization, right? It's like when you go to work, you get paid for working at that job, right? And if you stop working for that job, you stop getting paid by that organization. You get what I'm saying? And if you're not working at that job, you're not getting paid from that organization. You get what I'm saying? It's because as a member of that organization, as having a role in that organization, you have some sort of benefit, if you negotiated intelligently. Okay? So that should be clear. And in another example, we're going to talk about, like, say, the white boy with marijuana, right? White boy with marijuana, if the police starts driving away, he says something that you tend to laugh at, where he's like, my father's knows a district attorney, and blah blah blah, right? And you laugh at that, right? But he's saying something. The white boy's saying something. He's saying, hey, look, I'm a part of this organization. And then now when he gets his little slap on the wrist, you're like, what? Well, how? White privilege? No, it's white organization. You see, it's white organization, and it behooves you as black people, right? It behooves you as a black person to not engage in black organization, and you can receive benefits too, because you know what happens when the same police officer arrests a black child, right? He's going to take that black child upstate, and you know what his parents are going to do? They're going to ask, when can I visit him? And the police are not even going to make it easy. They're going to say, well, look, we took your child 3-hour drive away, right? And you can only visit on 3 days of the week, right? And when you visit, we're going to time you, and we're going to limit how many people you can bring. That's what they say. Meanwhile, a white kid, their parents are like, hey, look, I know the district attorney, or I know the sheriff, or I know, or this sheriff, or this person. They're organized, and yet we call it privilege, right? We call it privilege, but really, it's the difference between one organized people, the difference between an organized people and an organized threat, right? And people receiving benefits, and the people who are disorganized, not in the organization, and think they're in the organization, when realistically speaking, these police are just looking for cheap labor. And it's not just looking for cheap labor, no. Because there is a huge anti-black bias, of course. But again, it's like with the tiger example. You see what I'm saying? It's like with the tiger example. The tiger is going to go after the weaker party. You see what I'm saying? The white boy with the marijuana and his rich parents could get this police officer fired. You can't. You don't know who this white boy's white boy's pastor is, right? You don't know who this white boy's father and mother is, and what their roles are in their organization, their society, right? But they know what your parents are doing. Your parents are saying, when can I visit? As soon as you say that, you're gone. And let's go to another term that you were told to use, which is racism, right? The police would beat an unarmed black child, and leave an armed, organized white man alone. You understand? and then you call that racism. You say, look how these police, because I see this all the time. They're like, this brother was beat down and nearly killed, or he was killed, and he was unarmed. Meanwhile, this white boy walked up to the police with guns, and he walked into the precinct, and they treated him like royalty. But again, look back at the tiger. Which do you think the tiger would eat? Which do you think the tiger would eat? The tiger would eat the same black child. You understand? If you had the choice between going after an organized and armed group and an unorganized and unarmed group, right? You're going to the unorganized and unarmed group. Now you are taught to say, hey, well, that's racism. That's racist. But I'm telling you, even the tiger will do it. You understand? Even the tiger will do it. There's more to it. There's more to it. And I do tell people, I say, look, man, pick up Negroes with Guns. In Negroes with Guns, he explains, and this is something fascinating. This is something interesting to know. The author of Negroes with Guns was just as big as Martin Luther King Jr. But you don't hear about him. Okay? You hear about Malcolm X, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why you hear about Malcolm X, but not this brother. Right? But again, that's another conversation, or maybe that's even a conversation for later. But like I said, when you look into his writing, you'll see that there were no violent incidents. They were not the same kind of violent incidents that you hear about on Martin Luther King Jr. because when he did protests, he was armed. You get what I'm saying? He was armed, And I want to give you guys this brother's name. I mean, I remember his name, but it's it's so familiar. It's so similar to the some white comedian that I sometimes mess it up. So it's Robert Williams, and y'all all know who the white comedian I'm talking about is, but Robert Williams, he was just as big as Martin Luther King Jr., but they don't talk about him, and I'll say why in just a little bit, because I'm trying to reveal to you guys what's going on with our people and why this term racism and all these other terms are confusing us, and hiding reality from us, right? But I'm gonna go to this next one, right? The next term that you got that you love using is white supremacy. White supremacy, right? So white supremacy, right? Here's what it is, right? The schools promote whites, right? The beauty standard is white. The movies and the televisions are white. The scientists and the doctors, white. Every authority of the authority in your community is white, right? And then you guys call that white supremacy. But again, and remember, this tiger example is important. But again, if you go among the tigers, you see the same kind of social organization. The same exact social organization. The leaders of the tiger community, right? And yeah, you're gonna tell me tiger's not a good example, but there's a reason why I'm using tigers. All right? You're like, hey man, but lions, maybe you could say lions for this one. No. I'm using tigers for a particular reason, okay? But the leaders of the tiger community are tigers. You said that the history of the tiger tells the story of the tiger. The beauty standard for tigers fits the tiger. It's not going to fit the zebra. It's not going to fit the lion. It's not going to fit the alpaca. It's going to be about tigers. You call this tiger supremacy or white supremacy. But again, the tigers do the same thing. All right? And that's why I want to emphasize and stress to you to always watch and follow nature, right? Because when you look at all of this, okay? When you look at all of this, you'll see that what you are taught to do is to do a lot of name calling. You understand? You see what's going on? You see a situation where any other, where the reasonable thing to do, unfortunately, I don't want to say this, but the reasonable thing to do is to respond differently. But what we're doing is we're doing name calling. You get what I'm saying? The tiger bites the black man who's unarmed, right? And leaves the armed white man, and then we're going to say, hey, well, the tiger's probably racist. No. You understand? You shouldn't be name calling, right? The clue is in what the white man was doing. You get what I'm saying? The clue is in what the white man was doing. But all this name calling, what does it do? What is it for? Maybe you're trying to guilt white people. Hey, look, you're a racist. Oh no, geez, you got me. I gotta change my ways. How's the white community gonna accept me anymore? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. What point is there in name calling? I don't see it. And what's worse is that all this name calling eventually has us calling ourselves names, right? And we start bickering amongst ourselves on the things we say and do, and then we start creating all sorts of weird theories, and we have a lot of infighting, and then we're calling ourselves names, and there's other names along with it, like, oh man, this person's a leftist, or we're doing a dialectical capitalist, materialism analysis, or we start saying, hey, well, these are thugs, or these are, middle class black folk, and these are, Christians, and hey, you're transphobic, or you're anti-Semitic, or all that, and all this name calling, okay, doesn't affect the power structure at all. White people love it when all you're doing is calling them names, right? Because it leaves you weak, confused, and showing little progress. Okay? Let's be frank, right? And I want you to come close, listen to this, all right? White people today are militarily stronger than their ancestors that colonized and enslaved your ancestors. Yet, listen, you are militarily weaker than your ancestors who were colonized and enslaved by theirs. The power gap widened on both ends. But you are busy name calling. Do you understand what's going on? One of the quotes in the book is by John Bruce, who's saying, while we're sitting on our hands, paraphrasing, while we're sitting on our hands, they're building armories. They're building up their military arsenal against us. And he does my favorite line, which is, you might as well face facts as well as fancies. And he says this 100 years ago. 100 years ago, he's pointing out that they're building up militarily, and we're not. And that alone should embarrass anyone. But that alone should definitely embarrass you. All right? Because this is something that we really need to take seriously. And it's really at the core and the heart of our issue, because again, I already pointed out that you could see all this racism, white supremacy, all that stuff in nature. In the natural, in what you'd expect to be the natural response to a situation like this, to such a wide power gap. You understand? The problem is this. And despite all this, right? You know black people who are fully dedicated to destroying and insulting other black people. You know these people. And you know they spend their time and energy railing against other black people. You know this. And you sometimes chime in. You get what I'm saying? But meanwhile, again, this white-black military gap has widened exponentially since the start of our Ma'afa. Since the start of our enslavement and colonization and all the destruction going on, that military gap has widened. But you still have black people who are destroying other black people. You also have people like you who are going around talking about racism and white supremacy and not talking about and not building, I should say, yourself militarily. Okay? And you got to ask yourself, where is your nations? And what's the condition of it? And where are your kings and queens? And are they only in books now? Okay? That's what you need to ask yourself. And now we're going to go back to this tiger example, because again, this tiger example is important. We need to understand it deeply. You don't and shouldn't judge the tiger based on what it does. Imagine this tiger in your bedroom. Doesn't matter what it's doing. It could be trying to have a conversation with you. It doesn't matter. It could be tweeting. It could be reading a book. It could be sleeping. Doesn't matter. It is a problem by virtue of being a tiger. By virtue of being a tiger. Right? And the reason why you say this, and the reason why you should think this, right, is because a tiger is a killing machine. Okay? And all you need to do is to make sure that that tiger understands that it cannot kill you in its lifetime. That's all you need to do. But understand the tiger is a killing machine. And you don't call it names. You don't call it a racist if it's in your black home. You don't call it a tiger supremacist if it promotes a tiger beauty standard. You don't call it tiger privilege if it treats other tigers better than it treats you. No, you don't call it names. You understand that if a tiger is in a cage with two people and one is armed, the other is food. So you arm yourself. You don't try to analyze it. You don't look for patterns. You don't make deductions, then play around with those deductions. You shouldn't care about that. Right? No. You realize it's a killing machine, and you realize that the tiger population is only 4,000 on this planet. What? Yeah, the tiger population is only 4,000 on this planet because white people are bigger and better killing machines than tigers can ever dream of being. And that's why I was talking about tigers. There's only 4,000 on this planet because white people are bigger and better killing machines than tigers are. So if you can be so smart with a tiger, if you can see a tiger as a problem by virtue of being a tiger, then there's no reason for you to look at white people based on their actions. To wait for a white person to do something and then call them a racist or something. Or say this is a white supremacist. No. The white person is a worse killing machine than the tiger. And so this is when you open your book to one of my favorite tenets, right? One of my favorite tenets, and these tenets are like are essentially what you put at the core of your philosophical thinking, right? But the tenet on page 32 says the problem with Eurasians is Eurasians. The solution for Africans is Africans. Anytime anyone doesn't grasp this, they don't grasp nature. Okay? They don't grasp nature. Your solution is your people. And your problem are the white people, the non-African people. Okay? Whether they're Asian, whether they're European, Eurasians, whatever you want to call them, they are your problem. You don't judge the tiger on what it does. You see, these people are your problem by virtue of who they are. By virtue of who they are. Just like the tiger is your problem by virtue of what it is. Okay? You don't judge the tiger on what it does. But does the tiger have a historic relationship of oppression with your people? No. Has the tiger massacred whole villages? No. Has the tiger burned your books? Did the tiger transport your ancestors across oceans and valleys and deserts? No. Have you ever been enslaved by a tiger? No. Has the tiger raped you so frequently that your children come out more striped than you? No. You judge white people on their actions instead of who they are, and that's what they want you to do, and that's why you are confused. You shouldn't judge white people on their actions. Judge them on who they are. Did you ever notice that that's why they keep playing Martin Luther King Jr.'s quote, "Judge me by the content of my character," or whatever it is? The reason why they keep playing that is because it's the most confusing thing that could be said to you. You don't judge the tiger in the same way. You don't judge the bear in the same way. You don't judge anything in that way. You judge it based on what it is. Melanin makes you civil. Okay? And even if you don't understand that, you don't want to understand that, that's fine. Okay? But these people have a historic relationship with you and a historic relationship with themselves. Right? And until you understand that, right, it doesn't make sense for you to look at a tiger and be frightened or want to defend yourself, and not turn your back. Doesn't make any sense for that. Okay? If you don't want to take into account that these people have a worse history with you than any other entity on this planet, right? Then just go into the gorilla cage. Because what's the point? What's the point? Gorillas don't have the same relationship with you. They don't have the same horrific history as you with you. But if you're going to give these white people the benefit of the doubt, which doesn't make any sense, but if you're going to do that, then give it to the gorilla. Because historically, the gorilla is way better to you. Way better. You have to realize that whites are a warlike people. And you, too, are a warrior people. I'm not calling white people warriors. I'm saying they're warlike or warmongering. But you, too, are warrior people. Of course, you don't know that. White man doesn't want you to know that. And there's a reason for that. Right? There's a reason for that. But, because white man doesn't want you to know that, I want you to know that. And because I want you to know that, I wrote the book, the Pro-Black Compendium, where you could read on that. You could see the our story of our wars, or our civilizations, or our kings and our queen mothers, right? You could see that. But if you but if you want to read that, I'm saying read the book. Get the book and you could read it thoroughly, because I can't explain that to you right now. All right? But and I even included in this book that true, whites have a historic hatred of black people from way back, from time immemorial, way back. We're talking way back. But there are also savages from jump. Okay? And it's not my words, right? This is what ancient people said about white people, or the ancestors of white people. This is what, say, the Romans said about the ancestors of what we know as white people today. All right? And again, like I mentioned in earlier podcasts, research the battle axe culture. Right? You just look up battle axe culture, and you'll see a bunch of savagery, right? You'll see a bunch of savagery, and of course that goes back to the if a crocodile eats its own eggs, what will it do to the flesh of a frog? You know, if they're killing their enemies and drinking blood from their skulls, or drinking out of their skulls, or they're skinning their enemies alive, and all that kind of stuff, what do you think they're going to do to you? If their enemies are their own people, what do you think they're going to do to you, their historic enemies? You understand? And then of course you're going to be like, well, that's racist. Why are you harming me? No, it's cathartic for them. It's cathartic. It's fulfilling an ancient enmity. But again, you gotta read our story. You gotta read our story. And again, I gave you the book. I gave you the book. I said, look, instead of going into 1 million books, you could go to one book right now, and you could read our story. You could read our ancestors. All right? You can do all that, and I'm telling you, you can thank me later. All right? But what you have to realize right now is everything to do with this white man is war. Everything to do with this white man is war. Nearly Fuller Jr. says, if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, everything else will confuse you. But look, I just told you that racism, white supremacy isn't a law of nature and ergo doesn't reflect reality, right? So racism, white supremacy, the phrase, right, will confuse you too, okay? War reflects reality, all right? So it's more properly stated. It says, if you don't understand warfare when it comes to white people, everything else will confuse you. And I did you guys a disservice a little bit because I want to explain to you what reality is. Reality, and this is in the book, like I said, read the book, you get to learn a lot. Reality is a sum of laws that govern nature and the causes from which they flow. Our ancestors wrote this on a wall. When I say reality, or when you study nature, what you're looking for is reality, the sum of laws that govern nature and the causes from which they flow. If they don't correspond to the sum of laws that govern nature or the causes from which they flow, then it's not reality. White supremacy, racism, don't follow from the sum of laws that govern nature or the causes from which they flow. So it's not reality. It's not reality. And that's something that you have to understand. It's warfare. What you're looking at is warfare. And for that, I want to show you 3 non-Africans. Okay, I want to share with you 3 non-Africans. First one, Augustine. White people call him Saint Augustine. I'm just going to call him Augustine. Right? He wrote, so there may be peace without war, but there cannot be war without some kind of peace. I'm going to give you a moment to absorb that. So there may be peace without war, but there cannot be war without some kind of peace. Like I told you in the last podcast, I read a lot of European philosophy. A lot. And when I came across this line, I said to myself, wow. He's saying that there can be peace without war, sure, but there cannot be war without some kind of peace. That when white people go to war, it's over some sort of vision of peace, some sort of impression of peace. All right? As to say that the condition that you're in right now is reflective of what white people view as peace. You understand that? What you call oppression, this white man calls peace, and you'll see that in the book, in the Pro-Black Compendium. I have the poem called Peace, and when you read that poem, you'll see exactly what I'm saying, exactly what I mean. What they call peace, right, is what you see right now. And this is what Augustine wrote, and he didn't write it. And this is something that you have to realize. He didn't write it about you. He wasn't talking about black people. He was talking about and to white people, saying, so there may be peace without war, but there cannot be war without some kind of peace. Are you paying attention? Now the next Eurasian I want to bring up is Sun Tzu. And you heard of Sun Tzu. Alright? He wrote what you call The Art of War. Right? And in the Art of War, he talks about he gives the most insightful phrase on war from the Eurasian perspective, which is all warfare is based on deception. Alright? All warfare is based on deception. He further says, hence when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. But the main thing is, all warfare is based on deception. The indigenous people of America, quote unquote, right? They say the white man speaks with a forked tongue. Right? The white man is lying. He's a liar. Right? When they say that, they're saying the white man is deceptive. Right? All warfare is based on deception. Put it together. Put it together. The white man is deceptive because he's at war with you. He's at war with you. All warfare is based on deception. And no, I'm not saying all deception is warfare, no. But all warfare is based on deception. Why is the white man deceitful? Because he's at war with you. And again, listen, this is Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is in China. He's talking about Chinese people. He's talking about China. He's not mentioning white people. He's talking about Chinese fighting Chinese. How to win a fight against other Chinese people. He's saying all warfare is based on deception. But it's a truism when it comes to these Eurasians. You understand? It's a truism. And then we're going to finish off with, well, the third one I'm going to give you is Machiavelli. Right? I actually I added an additional one because this one's important too. But Machiavelli and his quotes I did include in the Pro-Black Compendium. I didn't include The Art of War, Sun Tzu's version. Because really I didn't want to put Eurasians in the book. But the thing with Machiavelli's quotes right now is that he doesn't attribute them to himself. He calls them general rules of warfare. And this is, of course, after he studies a lot of Africa's great generals and so forth, right? So I'm not going to attribute them to him either. He doesn't attribute to himself. I'm not going to attribute them to him, right? But he writes this: it is better to defeat the enemy by hunger than with steel. In such victory, fortune counts more than virtue, right? He also says, what benefits the enemy harms you, and what benefits you harms the enemy. And he also says, nature creates few men brave, industry and training makes many. You understand? Now, if you analyze these, right, what you call racism is applying these and other rules of warfare to another people, okay? Pay attention. It is better to defeat the enemy by hunger than with steel. Who controls how you eat? You understand what I'm saying? Another way to say it is, if you can defeat the enemy by hunger, if you can control the enemy by hunger, you don't need to be violent with them. Now, who controls who you eat? You see? And then what benefits the enemy harms you, and what benefits you harms the enemy. You look at this situation that what you call unfair between blacks and whites, right? Spelled out right there. When it benefits white people, it harms black people. Because it's war. It's war. And again, nature creates few men brave. Industry and training makes many. They stop you from training yourself. Okay? And any brave among you, they discourage. Or they put your brave, you're intelligent and you're savvy and all that, they put them into working for them, furthering their enterprises. You get what I'm saying? It's warfare. And it's spelled out. When you study war, if you don't study war, everything else will confuse you. You're going to call it racism. No. It's them holding on to their power. You understand? By going to war with you. You see that they're going. It's Augustine again. War because there's some form of peace for them. You need to listen. This is why you don't use these terms. And then to put the nail in the coffin, this is the additional Eurasian I wanted to inform you guys about. And this is Blumenbach. Blumenbach was the European who came up with this whole white superiority nonsense. Alright? He came up with this whole white superiority nonsense, looking at the different skulls of the different races, and he came up with these 5 races: the Caucasian, the Negro, the Mongolian, so on and so forth. And he put the Caucasian at the top as the most beautiful, as the smartest, and all that nonsense. Right? Now, the reason why I bring up Blumenbach is because when you study races, you go back to Blumenbach and you say races. He began the races. Not even true, because again, go back in ancient time, and you'll see an ancient hatred of black people. Alright? But what's important about Blumenbach, okay, is that here's this guy who comes up with this theory of white superiority, right? And then, while he's in Switzerland, he writes, Ein zum Verlieben schon Negres. Not German, don't want to speak German right, I don't care, right? But he says he saw a Negro woman so beautiful to fall in love with. You understand what I'm saying to you? He later recanted all of his theories, and said, this whole racial superiority thing, like Africans are not inferior to the rest of mankind, because he saw a black woman and he found her so stunning that he had to dismiss his own theories. That's Blumenbach. And white people know this. White people knew this at the time, and they were like, wait, hold on a second. Your doctrine of racial superiority was good for war, so we're going to stick with that one. Right? Or your doctrine of racial superiority really struck a chord with us, so we're going to stick with that one. But the reality is that when you look through history, our story, whatever, white people knew who the best people on the planet were. You know what I'm saying? They call us the blameless Ethiopians, the long-lived Ethiopians. Our faces are everywhere in the world as the supreme. They know we're super intelligent. They know we're more intelligent than them. They know that we're stronger than them. They know that we're faster than them. They know all of this, And see, the trouble right here too with this whole using the word racism is because they teach you the phrase racism would apply to what I just said, when everybody knows this to be true. Okay? Everybody knows us being superior is true. But it just doesn't fit their war narrative. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't fit their war narrative. But as far as, you know, the not only the ancient respect for black people, but even the contemporary, like anybody who's, like, if you paid attention, you'll see that white people know about black superiority. White people know that black people are much more beautiful than white people. And you know, you could get your notables like Mark Twain, you know, saying it, you know, in poetry or whatever, or saying it, you know, eloquently or whatever. But the reality is that no one, you know, it's just so obvious when you stop using the nonsense terms. When you stop using the nonsense terms, it just becomes obvious, right? And again, Blumenbach himself says this. You get what I'm saying? But I want to go back. White people do hate you. They do hate you. But they also recognize you as the most beautiful people on the planet, the strongest and the fastest, and they know you are the fount of culture and civilization. Yes, they hate you. They hate you. You get what I'm saying? And you read the book and you'll see why. But they do hate you, yes. But they know you're the most beautiful. And this is the trouble, and when you use terms like racism, you have all this confusion because when you interact with white people, like if you interact with white people on an individual level, on a personal level, they can genuinely seem admiring. Now again, might be deception, but if you're confusing people with this whole, hey, these white people, they think we're inferior, and then the white person comes to a beautiful black woman or whatever and says, hey, you know, you're really beautiful, I don't buy into this whole, you know, white superiority. I think black people are more beautiful than white people, right? That black woman's gonna fall head over heels. Why? Because you put in her head that white people find her ugly, and here's this white person who probably genuinely doesn't, because she's gorgeous. And even Blumenbach, who made the whole theory on white people being more beautiful than black people, even Blumenbach saw a black woman in Switzerland, no less, and said, I can't stand by that. You get what I'm saying? Because I remember I saw this beautiful black woman, and she told me, oh yeah, well this white guy, blah blah blah. And the reason why she was saying that was because because she's following this weird narrative on racism that doesn't apply to reality. You know? Where she has been told white people will find her hideous, or white people find her, and it's just not even remotely true. And you're contributing to the problem when you use the word racism, knowing full well that part of it isn't true. White people promote a white beauty standard. Yes. White people hate you. Yes. But you're the more beautiful people. And everyone knows this. The word racism hides reality. Right? Because whites can easily and genuinely, maybe, I don't know, but genuinely admire the greatest people on the planet. And it could have you looking at white people individually instead of looking at yourself collectively and what you need to do to regain your sovereignty. It has you thinking, and it has you talking, but it doesn't have you building. And again, that goes back to why, even though Robert Williams was as big as Martin Luther King Jr., like, you don't know about him, but you know about Malcolm X. And one of the things in Malcolm X's autobiography, and again, I put this in the book, but you also read it in Malcolm X's autobiography, and you should read that book as well. But in his book, the people at the time were saying, whatever you want to say about Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X was just talking. And then what do you think you're doing now? What are you doing now with all this? You're racist, or you're a white supremacist, or you're this and you're that. You're just talking. You know? We have to start arming ourselves. Right? In a respectable, in a way that is even better than our ancestors. At least. At minimum. At minimum. But we also have to start building. And not just plain talk. We need to start organizing. Okay? We need to start organizing. We need to be in organizations. Next Saturday, I should be talking about community centers. That's what I organize. Right? But for now, the Pro-Black Compendium, and Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa. Don't forget that one. But the Pro-Black Compendium, right? That's your community center right now. Okay? And unfortunately, I only have one review so far. You know? I want you to write me another review. I want you to write me another review. Okay? I want you to write me another review. And I want you to send me pictures, either on social media or on email, of you with the book. Or your favorite passage or your favorite page from the book. I need this book in your hands. I need this book in your neighbor's hands. I need this book in your significant other's hands. I need this book in black hands. Because it tells you the reality. It has so much in it. And it's almost and we need good and great literature, and we're not used to it yet. Too many people are writing books, and so we don't realize how great an art book writing is when done right. This is one of those books that was done right. But I need you to write me a review. I need you to send me some pictures. I want to put some pictures on my social media of you with my book. Alright? That's what I want. Otherwise, check me out at social media. At Onitaset. Onitaset. You can send me a donation at the Cash App. You can see the link in my on my YouTube channel, which is the Pro-Black Perspective, right? You definitely subscribe to this podcast, to this YouTube channel, right? And I'm looking to have conversations or debates every month. So if you're interested in having a conversation with me, I can prep you over the phone, and then we can just go in on any subject that you choose. Because you might want to share some knowledge. And I'm all down for that. I'm down for promoting our people. But outside of that, I'm grateful for you listening, and I'd like for you to listen again. Drop a comment, subscribe. You can donate, but definitely get this book and read it. All right, get this book, the Pro-Black Compendium, and read it. And Zuberi and Maroons of Maa, you get that one too. All right. Thank you so much. Your servant, Onitaset, Kumat. Thank you for listening. I invite you to join hands with your brothers and sisters as we recite the African affirmation together. It's a call and response, so follow my lead. We are an African people, robbed from our homeland, robbed of our names, our languages, our cultures, our religions, our womanhood, our manhood, our sisterhood, our brotherhood, our motherhood, our fatherhood, our selfhood, our nationhood, and our self-respect. But we shall rise, never to fall again. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.